My mother used to say that Delia Foss was the kind of girl who made a room feel warmer just by walking into it. Growing up on Carver Street in Belhaven, we were inseparable in the way only childhood best friends can be. The kind where you stop knocking and just walk in, where her refrigerator was your refrigerator, where her mother, Vera, would braid both our hair at the same time, humming old hymns with bobby pins between her teeth. Delia and I shared 23 years of each other, which means I knew the way she laughed before a punchline, knew she was lying when she touched her left earlobe, knew every scar and every dream she had ever spoken out loud. When my own mother passed, it was Delia who drove 4 hours in a January ice storm to sit beside me on my kitchen floor and not say a single word because she understood that words were useless. I loved her the way you love a person who has become part of your architecture. Vera was 81 by then, sharp as a tack but slowing down, and Delia had moved back to Belhaven to look after her. I thought it was the most beautiful thing. I told people that. I bragged about my friend. At Vera's birthday dinner that October, I remember watching Delia cut her mother's chicken into small pieces, patient and gentle, and I thought, some people are just good. I remember Delia catching me watching and giving me a smile I couldn't quite read. I filed it nowhere. I should have filed it somewhere. The first thing I noticed was a small one. Vera stopped calling me on Sundays. We had spoken every Sunday for years. She would tell me about her garden, and I would tell her about my week, and she would laugh at things that weren't even funny, because Vera found joy in conversation the way other people find it in food. When the call stopped, I texted Delia, who said Vera's phone habits had changed, that she got confused in the evenings now, that it was better not to excite her. I accepted this. Vera was 81. I sent a card. Then, in February, I drove to Belhaven to drop off soup and a book I thought Vera would love, and when I knocked, Delia answered the door in a way that used the full width of her body. She smiled and said her mother was napping. She took the soup. She did not invite me in. I stood on that porch for 3 seconds too long, and in those 3 seconds something moved through me like cold water through a pipe. A feeling with no name, not quite fear, not quite suspicion, just wrongness. I drove home telling myself Vera was napping. I drove home telling myself I was being ridiculous. That night I lay awake thinking about the way Delia had stood in the doorway, the way she had filled it. I did not call. I did not confront. I started watching. I have always been a researcher by nature. I work in medical records, I am trained to find the thread in a tangle, and I pulled that thread slowly and without any expression on my face. I called Vera's physician's office, and because Vera had once listed me as an emergency contact, I was able to confirm she had a new healthcare proxy on file, Delia's name, filed 8 months prior. I drove past the house on a Tuesday morning and saw a car I didn't recognize in the driveway, a man in a gray jacket going inside with a leather folder under his arm. I ran his plates. He was an estate attorney named Corwin Phelps, who operated out of an office in Dunmore, 40 minutes north. I found his client reviews online. One of them mentioned he specialized in last-minute will amendments for elderly clients. My hands were steady on my keyboard. My hands were completely steady. I requested Vera's property records through the county assessor's website and learned that the house on Carver Street had been transferred into a trust 3 months ago. I found the trust documents in the public filing index. I was reading them at my desk when my office phone rang, and I did not flinch. I simply minimized the screen and answered. That night, I sat in my car in my own driveway for 40 minutes because I needed to finish being devastated before I walked inside. Delia had spent the better part of a year quietly dismantling Vera's autonomy, limiting her contact with the outside world, positioning herself as sole caretaker, using her mother's declining health to justify every locked door, every missed Sunday call, every unanswered card, until Vera, isolated and dependent and trusting her daughter completely, had signed her name to documents she almost certainly did not understand. The house, the savings, the investment accounts. Everything Vera had spent 81 years building. I sat in my car until I felt the grief leave my body and something colder and more useful take its place. I was not going to scream. I was not going to cry on anyone's shoulder or post anything online or call Delia and let her hear my voice crack. That version of me, the one who felt things loudly. I set her aside like a coat I didn't need for this particular weather. What I was going to do was make sure that every single thing Delia had spent a year carefully constructing would come apart at the right moment in the right room in front of the right people. I made a list. I worked the list the way I worked everything, methodically, without sentiment, checking each item twice. When you are calm, people underestimate how much damage you are willing to do. I contacted Adult Protective Services in Vera's County and filed a report with the specific language that triggers an investigation rather than a wellness check. I knew the difference. I sent copies of the trust documents and the attorney's timeline to an elder law attorney in the city named Marceline Oates, who took one look and used the phrase undue influence without me having to. I reached out to 3 of Vera's oldest friends, women who had also stopped hearing from her, and I helped them document those contact gaps in writing. I gathered 8 months of evidence into a folder that told a story anyone could follow, and I sent it to the county probate court. I did one more thing. Corwin Phelps, the attorney who had facilitated this, had a state bar license with one prior complaint already on file. I submitted a detailed second complaint with documentation. The investigation into his conduct was opened 11 days later. I watched all of it unfold the way you watch a controlled demolition from a safe distance, with full knowledge of exactly which supports you have already removed. I live in a different apartment now on the east side of the city, with big windows that get the morning light. I drink my coffee standing up, looking out at the street below, and I feel something I can only describe as clean. Vera is in a supervised care facility now. The trust has been contested, and Delia is living in a 1-bedroom rental in a town where nobody knows her name yet. The legal process is ongoing. I do not follow it obsessively. I simply know it is moving. Some mornings I think about Vera's hymns, the bobby pins, the warmth of that kitchen on Carver Street, and I let myself feel that quietly, and then I put it down. You can miss someone and still burn down everything they tried to steal.